Welcome back. We're on part 9, and this is a long episode, but we got a couple more left to go. And I wanted to make sure that this was a really long one because, hey, it's WrestleMania. Why not? Uh, World Heavyweight Championship match: Alberto Del Rio against Jack Swagger. I've been kind of taking the piss out of a lot of these things to start off with,
You have
and
a
I
particular set of skills.
yeah, and I'm gonna do that in this match too. So instead of starting it off with all negative and everything. Let's start with something positive. Does everybody kind of agree that, uh, at the very, very least, this, at its core, is an interesting idea for the feud?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, that's something I can praise him a lot for. How better do you get Alberto Del Rio over than to play off the whole immigration thing? Because if there's one thing that a lot of that mentality crowd has, is that they're very big on the idea that they need to kind of exercise those rights that they have. We see it in a lot of different media all the time that you have one group of people that are going, everybody who's not white is a fucking immigrant for some goddamn reason. I never understood that, but this whole idea that everybody in America needs to be like this white religious et cetera Republican type of a thing. And then you have these on the opposite side that are arguing that everybody can come into the country and everybody is the same rights and so on and so forth. And it's a way to be topical. It's a way to get a lot of attention. They got a lot of attention through the Glenn Beck stuff originally, but the idea
I was
behind the
actually,
feud is very good. I like that. So, what
well,
were you
there's
saying?
one sort of negative about that is that they didn't stay in character for that whole Glenn Beck thing. When they did that video of those two cutting a promo and then going into them talking about how they appreciate the fans and stuff, I think it drew some heat away from their characters. Even though Zeb's could talk his way out of a paper bag, it irked me a little bit.
Do you think that they
But
would have done that? It would have made that much more of an impact if they wouldn't have done that?
yeah, because it was giving them attention, even though it was giving them negative attention. They should have just stuck to staying in character.
Well,
But
on top of
instead, they
that,
had to.
it wasn't Vince's old catchphrase, any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, agreed. But breaking character and then saying how you
Yeah, but
appreciate
they never
everybody
broke character on TV. And who the fuck, how many people watched that YouTube video that weren't at least, internet fans? The
Exactly.
casuals did not
Hmm.
go and watch that YouTube channel. I guarantee you that much.
It doesn't help though. It
It,
doesn't help them the
again, it's not
slightest.
like they did
I
it
don't
on
think it hurts
TV.
it.
It doesn't hurt it because they didn't do it on TV.
And you
So,
know what? WWE is so much more concerned with their image nowadays than they are the actual product. It wasn't a surprise at all for them to do that because
This this is
they're,
such a racy storyline.
yeah, it's them covering their own ass because they might have that mentality of any press is good press, but at the same time they certainly don't want negative press at all.
You know,
Yeah, but
And
people
there's
talk about wanting a return of the Attitude Era, and you look at what we got going on. We'll talk later about CM Punk and Undertaker, and now you also got to consider what's going on in this feud. They really are kind of getting edgy again.
a
no,
lot
but
edgier
it's a
than they used
good
to be.
thing. It's a good thing though. It allows them to do what
and
the
I mean, it's
storyline
got me invested
dictates.
in Jack Swagger for like the first time in his entire career. So I mean, it
Yeah,
must be doing something right.
it plays around with something new as well because it allows them to do something they don't usually do and come out of their comfort zone. I just don't like the fact that they backpedaled as soon as they started getting a negative response over it. It they need to see that the consistency and see it all the way through. People should know that this is the fake world of wrestling, so to speak. I'm not saying that it is fake, but I'm saying that it's seen as that, and that these guys are seen as characters that are being played by individuals who are portraying them. You can't it's a foregone conclusion, but you're not going to have someone openly go out there and say, "Well, I'm playing a character, so
But the
here's an
fact
idea.
that
Why don't you do this?"
you know that, I know that, probably about everybody listening to this podcast knows that.
Again, how
Glad
many of the
Beck didn't know
casuals
that.
know that? Who watched that on YouTube that just watches on TV? I doubt anybody did.
Well, even the casuals know what wrestling is, but I'm saying Glenn Beck does not understand what wrestling is. He really is completely clueless to how wrestling works.
Oh, don't say that. He's going to start crying.
He'll start blaming us for America's problems if he hears this.
I would love to argue with Clinton Beck.
Oh, I'd love to argue with him too. What a prick. Anyway.
But that's the thing. It's, you know, when you have a general consensus about a guy like that, and having this whole sort of storyline go through, it's easy for someone like him to pick it apart, even though he doesn't understand anything about the business. He doesn't understand about these individuals. He saw it as a way for him to gain some publicity over it, where it kind of backfired. You know, the one thing I can say for Del Rio, it does up the stakes for him. It does make it to a situation where, okay, he's faced with this situation. How is he going to persevere over it? Is he going to win? You know, and that's what's good about it. But where does it leave Swagger? Does Swagger really look like a credible contender? Does it give him that edge that he needs to be back in the world title picture?
I would say him beating the shit out of Del Rio with the crutches there.
That was really good.
What a way to make him look like he could beat the shit out of Del Rio at WrestleMania.
You know what I'm disappointed with the crutch thing? But the first thing that ran through my mind was, I really wish that, I mean, maybe they'll do this for Extreme Rules. And if they don't, I think that they're really kind of missing an opportunity here. But when I first saw that, it elicited the mental image in my brain of slavery. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking to myself, if they don't do some kind of a strap match, my God, they're missing an opportunity.
I thought that too. Yeah.
I think they're built. Well, they're definitely. I think the feuds. It's hard to say though, because I could see Dolph cashing in at the end of this match. So it's hard to say.
Doesn't.
Yeah, it's like, why the fuck didn't he even attempt that? Unless, like, this opens the show, like, we're all really fucking begging it doesn't, because, in my opinion, it at least has build to it. It has way more build than Sheamus and Bryan had. These are two people who are actually feuding, not just talking about a match or the promo once a week.
Right.
So, now on top of that, Edge and Del Rio had build, too, but for whatever reason, that opened the show at WrestleMania 27. So
that's another positive, though. It has been physical. It went from talking to physical.
Yeah, it's progressed.
Yeah, it's built rather well. It has been built to the point where, you know, it's you understand it from A to B. You know where the story's going and what course it's going down, and that's helped it. I believe in the long run, it has helped it. But I do agree with Tony. It could have led to a gimmick match and something.
Yeah, but I think
kind of edgier.
Not for their first match.
Not for their first match. That's more for a blow off. Like Jericho and Punk last year, they had their blow off in the street fight at Extreme Rules. Do you think it would have made sense for them to have that right away at WrestleMania 28?
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
But do you think that Swagger and Del Rio will continue if Ziggler cashes in?
Ziggler can cash in and fail. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to lose the contract. He can cash in, and something stops him from being able to officially cash in.
That is a very important question, though, because I think Del Rio's going to retain, and I really do think Ziggler's going to cash in. Now, I could be completely wrong, and Del Rio wins, and this feud continues on. But I would hope for at least one pay-per-view just to finish Swagger off. They would, but it's like, what is Del Rio just goes on to feud with Ziggler because he stole the belt from him, and then where does that leave Jack?
Yeah.
See, in my mind, I still think we're not seeing a Dolph Ziggler cash in. So to me, moot point about where do they go from there. I think that that's going to happen at Extreme Rules or after that. And if you have that scenario, you have Del Rio retain the title here, which I do think is going to happen because you kind of need it at this point. If you have him lose, that's going to look pretty bad.
Swagger, yeah.
And also because I think that they aren't going to be giving Jack Swagger the title since he got arrested again. I think that's.
I didn't think he was getting the title before that.
Yeah, he isn't getting it. This feud is to get Del Rio over. So he wasn't going over. Get him over
as like the Latino babyface for the most part, a Latin hero.
What I could see happening, though, this is my prediction for the whole thing. Del Rio retains. They have a gimmick match at Extreme Rules where he retains again. And whether or not that's a strap match, that's if they do that, that would make a lot more sense to me. It'll probably just be like Last Man Standing, or more than likely it'll just be a no disqualification match that they give one of the 50 names to, where they had Belfast Brawl and Extreme
Or at
Rules
worst,
and a
it's a
street
chairs
fight,
match.
and that kind of crap. It'll be a crutches match or something.
Mhm.
So
Uh,
that actually wouldn't be all that bad. I mean, I've never been so intrigued with the use of a crutch in my entire life, other than on Monday's Raw.
Did anyone else
That
see
was an
Zeb
awesome
Coulter
attack.
get? Zeb Coulter dropped the one crutch, and he asked for them to hand him the crutch, and they did. It's like really? You just gave him a crutch to beat Alberto Del Rio with? Like,
Right.
that's not cool. What's
um,
wrong with you?
but
That's the one
I
thing as
think
well.
that I think that what we will end up seeing though is if Ziggler cashes in at Extreme Rules after the match, it would be maybe Del Rio wins again and Swagger attacks him and leaves him lying out cold, and then that's why Ziggler comes out and cashes in and wins. And we move on to Ziggler and Del Rio. Where does Swagger go from there? Well, maybe at that time Rey Mysterio is ready to come back. Maybe at that time Sin Cara is ready to come back, and he can just beat the
He
living
kind of
shit out of
shifts
Sin
to a
Cara.
lower, like
Yeah.
not in the world title picture, but he shifts to a star he could still continue that shtick with. And then once,
Right. Maybe he moves on to somebody else like a Kofi Kingston.
and then when Ziggler's ready to, let's say, move on to somebody else who's a babyface to challenge him, Del Rio could perhaps move down and finish what started with Swagger earlier in the year.
Well, you
Yeah, I
never know.
believe that Swagger's gonna, if it does happen, in his final match with Ziggler, Swagger's probably gonna interfere and then just start laying Del Rio out to the point where they're gonna end up having a huge blow-off match between the two.
Yeah.
Probably some huge gimmick match, like a last man standing match or something like that,
But I mean,
just so that Del
A
Rio can get
deportation
that.
match.
I don't put it past them. I really don't put it past them. But they, or a
I
Ricardo
think
Rodriguez on the pole match.
I
No,
Um,
think
that
what's
would be it
really
would be
good
really
about
funny if they
this.
did like a deportation match and they really played it like old school 80s WWF and they could have like vignettes of Jack Swagger wandering in some desert in Mexico.
Anyway, I think we can all agree that this feud is at least doing something. It's got us talking. We're actually interested in a world title match. It's
Yeah.
got 3 billion times the build that Sheamus and Bryan had. Do you remember any tension between those two whatsoever
No.
before their world
All I
title match?
remember is
Any reason why they were
Sheamus.
feuding other than Sheamus winning the Rumble?
Yeah,
Seriously.
all I could see was Sheamus trying to be the underdog, and Bryan acting like he was undefeatable.
Well, that brings up a point. Uh, there's one negative that I have about this, and that's I don't think that it needed to be for the world title, and that's not necessarily
A knock?
a shot at either of these two guys or the feud itself. Actually, it's almost more of a compliment. The feud could have been a perfectly fine undercard match and have that same amount of build and everything like that because the focus has not been on the World Heavyweight Championship. And that's my issue with it.
Well, it
It's
kind of has.
It
Swagger
it's
is.
doesn't.
Swagger
Swagger
more
was.
doesn't think Del Rio
Oh,
deserves to hold, and he wants to take it from him.
but
Yeah.
they've been building it more so as he has a personal issue against Alberto Del Rio
Yeah.
and his
Yeah, but
ethnicity.
especially because he's a champion though, and his goal on taking Del Rio out is by taking the championship
Yeah,
from
it's
him.
about Alberto having success in America, and that's the part that Swagger doesn't like.
They
Also,
took our jobs.
And
also,
I think
dude,
it
I
could
see
have
that. I
done
hear that every time I see Zeb Coulter. I swear to God, they took our jobs. It's every single time I see Zeb Coulter, I think of that little red mustached man from South.
But
but I think it could have done perfectly fine if not even enhance the card if this weren't a World Heavyweight Championship match. They could have had the World Heavyweight title involved in something else. Um, I don't know exactly what, but
I didn't like it when Swagger first won the Chamber. I was completely unsure about it when he first won. I'm completely sold on it being a world title match now.
Yeah,
Actually,
going
I'm
into
completely
it,
sold on the feud.
I didn't feel like Del Rio Swagger was a world title match when he won the Chamber, but I do now. And
Yeah.
also, I don't think that they would have put as much work into the feud if the title wasn't on the line. I can't see them putting this much effort and time into Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger if the World Championship isn't on the line. It's an undercard match if in that case, and they don't care about the undercard match.
Yeah, they're basically using the feud to sell him as a credible world heavyweight champion,
Mhm.
and it's doing wonders for him. I have to admit, his face turn has been pretty. It's been
It's
rather
been a lot more
positive.
successful than Miz's.
Yeah, and it's been more positive in comparison to his heel, run. He's a far better face than he was a heel.
It's still
Uh,
not anywhere near what they want it to be, though.
no, of course,
Well,
they
it's just
expect
the
him to be
beginning.
like
The way that we
Punk
keep hearing it
levels,
is, well,
you know.
what I keep hearing on various dirt sheets and everything is that they want him to be the next Eddie Guerrero, and I
Yeah,
mean
it's not going to happen.
they haven't even gotten to the point where he's getting, uh, I would even say like a fourth of that amount of a response. I mean, we had a couple episodes
I
ago on
can't believe they
Raw.
changed his theme to Jingle Bells. That
That's
really really fucking depressed me. I'm like,
uh,
that
Yeah,
theme was
well,
awesome the way it was, and you fucking ruined it.
but we had even a couple episodes of Raw ago, the fans chanting USA instead, and
mhm.
they need to ramp it up if they really want Del Rio to do that. And
The
there's
fans
been
chant USA when it's two American wrestlers in the ring. It's like, what?
Well,
Yeah,
the
wasn't
first
that
part,
also in Philadelphia? I mean, that's a smart town. They do things like that.
the
I thought
worst
that was
part
the
is
week before Philly. I think
But that was Pittsburgh, which is also a smart town.
might have been.
It's not Alberto that's over as a face. It's Ricardo that's over as a face.
Yeah,
Alberto is
Very true.
like there. He's good in the ring. His character as a face though. I'm not interested in him. He doesn't have
I
an
just
edge.
He's Ricardo's muscle.
and in the
Yeah,
same time,
Mhm.
it's not Jack Swagger that's over as a heel. It's Zeb Coulter.
Yeah.
No,
It
but
feels
the
like
thing is,
Alberto is. It feels like Alberto is like Ricardo's big brother, and like
yeah,
that's what Alberto's for. And Swagger is the muscle because Coulter can't do it himself. He's like
Right.
a tiny old man, and
well,
Swagger is the big
the funny thing
bully.
is though, you've got people actually chanting Coulter's spiel. You have fans,
We the people.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
dude.
it's getting to the point where they're being seen as the face in a rather weird and disgusting kind of manner. Um,
Well, a lot of people in this country believe in exactly that type of thing. So
It's also come off a lot of ways that way too. I remember a specific
it's
week, what
polarizing,
they were
really.
on. I believe it was the Miz's show, and there was a point where Zeb Coulter brought up this excellent point about how illegal immigrants want all these rights in this country, but if an American goes into Mexico, they're not allowed to own land.
mm,
And Del Rio was essentially just like, "Oh yeah, well you shut up,"
right. Well,
and
you're the
that's
heel.
all he
So
had.
damn it, boo.
Yeah, like how could people not want to cheer that other guy? Then he's the one who's making the good points.
Right.
yeah, and this is the thing as well. It's gone to the point where what he's talking about has become so convincing that people are cheering for him, and you can't do that as a heel. You have to affect everybody the same way. Your entire audience has to give you that disdain, and he's only affecting a certain individual, a certain group of people. Then it makes his whole point worthless, if that makes sense, or what he's trying to do worthless.
Well, yeah, because he's
And
not gaining 100% heat.
yeah,
So he's not really helping Jack out because Jack's supposed to be like the number one hated heel in the world title picture.
yeah,
If you're
it's
giving
like
the
the whole
guy face pops, you're not doing your job properly.
it's
He's
like
not
the whole
supposed to
thing
be a
with
fucking
Bret Hart in
face.
Canada, for instance, when Bret was like he was loved in Canada but hated in the States.
Mm,
Mhm.
You
But that was
can't do
100.
that.
that's a good comparison.
No,
Yeah,
because it's not even the same thing. Because that was a part of Bret's character. He
yeah,
bashed
but
America when he was there. He praised Canada. Of course, he's
no,
gonna
but
be cheered.
it didn't make him the whole well-rounded heel that he was supposed to be, because then he went over to Canada and he's getting like this face heat and stuff, and he's selling out Canada as a face, and then he's going over to the States and he's being a
But
heel over in the
at
States,
the
but it's
same
not
time, that had
What
never
convincing.
does it
been
matter
done
if he's selling
before.
out? That's the
Right.
point. Like,
You know,
Yeah.
it had never been done before. So
But with Coulter's situation, he's targeting a small group with basically the Mexicans, and those. I know they try to diversify it a little bit with Jericho, and they're
and
targeting
Barrett,
sort
and
of
he
the
told off. I don't know if he told off Cesaro, but he told off Barrett. He told off
yeah,
Jericho.
and
Yeah.
that's the problem, and it gets to the point where you need to basically be at that level where you need to offend everybody, and if you're not doing that, you're not effectively putting that heat on Swagger, and it's not transferring. It's not really transferring anyway, because it's not allowing Swagger to get to that level based on that heat. If you took Zeb Coulter away from him now, I doubt Swagger would be as strong a heel as he's supposed to be.
He'd be
I
boring.
think that's an
He would
interesting
care.
dynamic to this story, though. It's not so black and white. Maybe Jack Swagger doesn't have to be that fully black heel. Maybe it is a little bit grayer, and maybe some people are able to get behind him.
What it does is it brings outside attention to the feud because of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think the majority of the casual fans do hate Swagger. I think it's the smart fans that are the ones that are like, yeah, we love Jack Swagger. He's a heel.
I'm a Smart fan, and I'm not the biggest fucking Jack Swagger fan.
You love Zeb Coulter, though. That's the thing. Like,
No, I like his mic work.
I think
Yeah,
I
like-
appreciate that the caliber talent that he is.
And I think Del Rio's
mouthpiece
for
gets
somebody who
over-
didn't know English, I think he's very underrated as a talker. Nobody gives him enough credit.
But this is
for
a
the
good point that
promos.
Chris Jester's pointing out now. The talker is getting more heat than the actual talent.
Yeah, the
Yeah, 'cause
managers
Jack
are
can't,
core of the
can't
shoot.
really talk for shit.
yeah, the mouthpiece should be getting the muscle over. That's how it works. Like, when you're like that, you need a mouthpiece. You need someone to talk for you.
Yeah. When you talk like Swagger, you kind of need somebody a little bit more convincing to talk for
His
you. I'm
in
not
the
going to
ring-
lie.
Like his size and his look and his in-ring prowess, he's got it all. He needs someone to talk for him.
It's just when he opens his mouth, that's when it all dies.
Well, this is an interesting match when it comes to the live crowd situation here. I personally, obviously I don't go to a whole lot of wrestling events because I just don't have the funds to do it. But I went to that TLC before, and I cheered for some heels and I cheered for some baby faces and so on and so forth. But with most of the card for WrestleMania, I know who I'm going to cheer for, and it ends up turning out that it's the person I'm supposed to cheer for. I'll be, rooting for Brodus Clay. I'll be rooting for The Miz, Chris Jericho. To an extent, probably Team Hell No, even though I personally like Dolph Ziggler more than anybody else on that roster. I'll be going for Ryback over Mark Henry. The Shield thing, that's a different story. But when it comes to the Del Rio and Jack Swagger thing, I actually like Jack Swagger more than Alberto Del Rio.
And I'm the exact opposite.
And I certainly cannot be sitting there cheering for Jack Swagger without looking like either that total Smark kind of thing that's
or the fucking bigot that agrees with Zeb Coulter's immigration.
Yeah, or the
Exactly.
racist.
So
Did
this
you
is-
see Jack Swagger's new shirt?
good
Like,
thing I'm
how
a
could
Del
you wear
Rio
that
fan.
in public and explain it?
What is it?
It's a United States map sort of with chains and a skull on the chains around it.
That's so good. You need to buy that shirt at the merchandise stand. during
Yes.
that one
You know what?
match.
I may. It's a neat shirt. It's like a nice tan color. It's cool.
I think it just came out too. Didn't you just start wearing that this past Monday?
Yeah, I think it was debuted this Monday.
That's a brand
You
new
know what? I
piece
think
of merch
I'm
you
going to
got there,
wear
man.
that shirt and just Dave Chappelle it.
well,
So
what?
that's-
Yes,
get
I
where-
guess it's a good thing that I prefer Del Rio over Swagger because regardless, if I was there, I'd be cheering for Del Rio because I'm not the biggest Jack Swagger fan.
Well, I figured
wanna
out
say-
what I
Can
have
do in
to
the ring, not really a big fan of everything else.
I figured out what I have to do. I have to do what I did at the TLC. I have to cheer for Ricardo Rodriguez, and that's it.
That could work.
I'm just gonna be sitting there going Ricardo the whole time.
You brought up an interesting point though about the crowd reaction though. New York is the smartest town in the country. They'll always go against who you want them to cheer. And yeah, we'll have a lot of international and other states influence on it too, but it's going to be mostly that New York crowd.
Right,
Mm.
and you
Who knows who
don't
they're
know
gonna
what's
cheer
gonna
for.
happen with this.
Mhm.
Yeah, example at WrestleMania 22, the Chicago crowd outweighed everybody else who was there. So, like, that's
Mhm.
just how it's going to be.
Well, to
the
be
locals.
fair, that was done in a way smaller venue, though.
That's
Let's
true.
go Cena sucks.
Oh, that's not even going to be much of the Let's Go Cena in comparison, but this match is the one I'm really interested to see what the crowd does, because Undertaker, Triple H, like
They're all
We're
going
gonna
to get their good old, people behind them.
yeah, we're gonna get cheers for Punk and Lesnar, but it's gonna be, I would
Drowned
assume
out.
more so Undertaker and Triple H, but the Swagger and Del Rio one, that
Fuck, I have
might,
no idea who.
that might cause some problems in the audience. For all we
I
know.
think there's a lot of potential in this match. There is a lot of potential in what's the outcome's going to
both are
be.
fantastic in the ring. I don't doubt that this is not going to be a very good match. I'm really looking forward to it for sure. And
Well-
the feud's getting everybody talking, so it's doing something right. Like
I just hope that they treat it as the main event that it should be.
Yeah, as
So
long
let's,
as it's not the opening match, I'll be fucking fine.
Yeah.
Let's do the final predictions here. Braden, who do you think's winning?
I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Del Rio retains, but for whatever reason, think that Dolph Ziggler will cash in after this match. I could be completely wrong, but as for the match itself, Del Rio's definitely retaining the championship. Swagger's not winning.
Peyton?
I will be singing along with Ricardo Rodriguez as he does the intro.
Burhan?
Del Rio retains, Ziggler cashes.
Jester?
Del Rio retains, but he does not leave with the World Heavyweight Championship. Dolph Ziggler does.
And I'll say Del Rio retains and doesn't get cashed in upon. And that's just kind of, it ends, and that's it. Finishing up the last three parts here with...
Hey, really quick, it's worth noting before we switch that they had an interview with Dolph Ziggler, and he said that he wouldn't cash in unless he was absolutely sure he was going to win. Just want to put that out there. That was done today. Found that on the internet earlier. So
that's interesting.
He said unless he absolutely is sure, like, that he can go down there and win the championship, he doesn't see a reason to cash in, even if it's WrestleMania. So just want to put that out there.
Part 10, we're going to talk Triple H and Brock Lesnar. Then we're going to go with Undertaker and Punk, and then finish this all off in Part 12 with the WWE Championship.